we've been through a lot of wars together, boys. You know, a lot of these six up here, and I said a lot of words to them at our senior farewell game that we had regular season, but also we had a couple senior farewells because we were fortunate that we had more state tournament games that we hosted. So, you know, they never really knew when their last game was going to be until it for sure was going to be the Bay City Western game, win, lose, or draw. But these guys, you know, what a remarkable ride they had. And if you go back, they were freshmen when the Alpena team set school records by winning 17 games and unfortunately losing in the district final on a PK to Gaylor 2-1. But they were freshmen that year, and they were pretty much thrown to the wolves as sophomores because that 19 team, we graduated everybody except for Mike Clark and Brett Nemowitz. And these guys had to come in and really play varsity soccer before they were ready. But the numbers dictated that they play, and they did a nice job. Even though we struggled, we had some growing pains. And then obviously last year they took another leap when they were juniors, performed better, but still a very young team. We only really started two seniors with Abe Reggie and Mason Bray being the two. Once we lost Andrew Dargis to injury, you know, it was a very, very young team again. But we definitely reaped the rewards of that, you know, because we hung with these guys basically for 3 years, and a lot of them were 3-year starters or 3-year varsity players, and it definitely showed. You know, Wesley played a couple years on the junior varsity, which I think were beneficial to him, and I'm going to speak about him first. What a great, you know, he's the perfect example of why coaches can never judge a player just on a stopwatch, or a yardstick, or a vertical jump, or you know, a power lift, or anything like that. I mean, you look at him and you say, all right, he's not going to measure up against kids that are a foot taller than him. But the thing about Wesley that I love and I found to be true with a lot of very, very motivated soccer players and motivated athletes is you can't measure their heart. And you know, he's the type of guy I always said would put his hand in a beehive, and he wouldn't be afraid of it. You know, and that's the type of player he was. Again, he played outside back that entire game that we beat, or that we didn't beat him, but we tied him. Felt like a win against Traverse City West. Did a great job against some high quality players. Again, sometimes he started, sometimes he subbed in, sometimes he played in the back, sometimes he played in the midfield. A couple times he even played up front, but a very, very versatile player. And Wesley was rewarded with that because he got on the stat sheet. You see that he ended up with 1 goal and 3 assists for 4 points for the year. And a guy that I'm really going to miss, did a great job, Wesley Decker. You know, the rest of these guys basically were varsity players for a long time. You know, Cameron Young, the next person I'll talk to, about what a great surprise. You know, we were disappointed we didn't have him last year. You know, he decided to focus on hockey, and I think that was a good decision for him at that time. But we really missed him. We really missed him last year because as a sophomore, he started a lot. He played some as a 6. He played some as a wide midfielder. He might even play at attacking center mid a couple times. Maybe even got a cup of tea as a front runner. But I think we identified a need that we had to really solidify this year, and that was with our center backs, because I had other plans for Bogian, and I knew Chase could hold it down, but I needed somebody to pair with him. And Cameron early on stepped into it, seemed to enjoy it. In fact, there were times where I tried to move him in the midfield, and he said, hey, can I go back to play center back, I like that better. And you know, that's special when you can find a player that likes that, because sometimes, you know, it's not a real glory position. And where really, people who know soccer, it's tremendously important. But they think that you gotta score goals all the time. But you know, he really made the most of that, gave us a real physical presence, you know, with tackles and his tenacity. You know, then he was always a factor on restarts. You know, he could come forward, he'd get up in the air, whether it would be on Gabe's throws or Jacob's corner kicks. And he was rewarded late in the year. He made kind of a charge offensively, and he finished the year with 4 goals, 1 assist for 5 points. He got some late goals in the season. I think he even scored against Bay City Western, if I remember, and that was good to see. But what a nice surprise to get him back. And I think he really helped solidify a team that was going to be good. He made us very good. Cameron Young. Okay, these last 5 are mainstays. Sam Cook. Sam was a guy that really played anywhere I would ask him. I remember one of the things I do every year is I give players a player profile that they have to answer. And one of the questions I ask them is where do you see yourself helping the team? You know, what positionally, where do you see yourself playing? And you know, he was really, really honest about his strengths and his qualities. And he said, you know what, I can play outside back, I played there a lot, I'm comfortable there, but I'm also very comfortable playing outside mid. And you know, I played him there a few times in his career, but I really felt that as the season progressed, we needed a little bit more of a rotation at outside mid, because we were a little shy there with what I had. So, you know, that's when I thought I could maximize that position by playing him there along with Garrett and Leslie, and he did a great job. I mean, I remember lots of things, but that Bay City Western game, you know, in the first 5 minutes, he almost had a goal and assist, and he came forward real well. One thing he's improved his flight on his crosses from the beginning of the sophomore year, and did a great job. And again, a lot of times I played him in the back. He was able to shut down real key players, as he did against Traverse City West. And again, it's going to be hard to replace Sam Cook. I don't know if you saw his elbow, his brother elbow, come up again. So Jack, same thing. I'll tell you, Jack, for 3 years, he's been a mainstay in our midfield. He's a guy that has very good skills. He's very skillful with both feet. The thing that I noticed most about Jack is how much better his left foot had gotten. You know, there were balls he ripped in the summer left-footed, upper 90. Greg and I noticed there was one he did in the game this year, upper 90 with left foot. And one thing that Greg and I have been trying to really instill in the boys is that if you're an outside midfielder, you don't just run the touchline. Sometimes you have to you make overlapping runs, but you also make underlapping runs and get inside. And for a lot of the year, I was able to play Jack out wide, and he really excelled in that role. But I was a little bit thin inside, and I knew he could play there as well. So again, tremendous versatility. So scored some great goals for us. Very technical player. He finished 4th in the team in scoring, and he had 8 goals and 7 assists for 15 points. And many years that would have been leading the team, but he had 3 guys ahead of him. You know, those guys. The beauty about this team that I always told people when I got in depth conversations with them is that in 19, Ivo scored all our goals. You know, our foreign exchange student did a great job. Very dangerous player, but he scored all of those. And teams figured out if you could shut down Ivo, Alpena's not going to score. This year, in some ways, that I think might make us a better team overall, because we had 4 guys that we could rely on scoring goals. Jack being one of them, Gabe being another, and Austin and Jacob, and then Cameron and Chase and other people chipping in. But it was great having that flexibility, that depth, and Jack Cook was a big part of that. You know, one thing I didn't mention that I knew I wanted to talk about at some point is that in our season synopsis, I believe, if I'm correct, I'd have to go back and double check, but I think we trailed in 7 games this year. In 7 games, 7 times we trailed. We came back and either tied or won. I think we won 5 and tied 2 of those contests. And that's one of the things when you've got a team that can score in the flow of the game and also on restarts, you're never really out of it. And like Greg and I said, we didn't feel we were out of it on Saturday either, because we knew we could score either on the flow or restarts. But one of the guys that made us real special on restarts, that really improved his game, was Austin Townsend. I think a guy that a lot of you freshmen, sophomores can look to emulate, because when he was a younger sophomore on the varsity, I don't know if he ever got his head on the ball. You know, and I would talk to his grandpa sometime and say, you know, does Austin play much baseball? Can he judge a flighted ball? Because he's never really getting on the end of them. And boy, that completely changed. Completely changed. He had 20 goals this year. Many of them were headers. Many of them were off corners. And you know, whenever you score 20 goals at a high school level, that's a lot. That's a lot of goals. You know, Gabe got the most points with 32, but Austin has the most goals with 20. And again, when you look at the history of Alpena soccer, 20 goals, you know, is really up there. We mentioned that he tied the school record with 6 goals in the Oscoda game. But beyond that, he scored some important goals in big games. You know, obviously, you know, the goal against Petoskey, but there are other big games that he scored as well. You know, whether it was Traverse City or whoever, and it was important that he did that. But he'll be hard to replace for, you know, what he gave us in the midfield, what he gave us in the air, and what he gave us from a leadership standpoint. Austin Townsend. You know, sometimes as a coach, you've got a player like Chase. Chase was a great center back. He was a great center back. But I was forever trying to get him into the midfield. Even up probably until the last game of the season, because, you know, in training, he probably has possibly our best shot. You know, and I'm not talking just from a strength and power standpoint, but placing a shot, you know, whether he hits it right-footed or left-footed, and you know, he's a guy that's versatile. He knows the game. He communicates very well. Great field general. And again, he could have played anywhere on the field, probably other than forward. I could have played him outside mid. I could have played him anywhere in the center midfield, and certainly in the center backfield. Don't think he could play goal. You play goal against Bengals?
Oh, no, I do not.
So you're not the guy who let up 5 goals?
No.
But did a great job all over the field. And you know, at the end of the day, it always seemed that you come back home and you go back to center back and do a great job there. That was his home. He seemed to like it there. And just gave us great leadership. Again, he'll forever remember those 2 long free kicks that I think scared the Traverse City West goalkeeper, or Traverse City Central goalkeeper. Didn't judge it properly, probably never anticipated coming as far or as hard as it did. And you know, that's something he'll tell his kids and grandkids, that he scored both goals that beat Traverse City Central back in 2022. And you know, let's not forget about the defensive stuff he did too. I'm sure that's high on your list. For the season, you can see that Chase had those 2 goals, another 3 assists for 5 points. Going to be hard to replace. Chase Show. And then our last senior, last but not least. Again, one of this crew that's been with us for the better part of all 3 years. Played a little bit as a freshman. I think I brought him up a couple games. And I remember the 2020 season, we lost on penalty kicks to Cadillac in the districts at our home field. And you know, Jacob was a big reason, he and Gabe both were a big reason why we were able to extend that game in overtime and penalty kicks. Played very, very well, but he just kept excelling. You know, again, he's a player that could play all over. You know, I really pride myself as a coach having players that are versatile. I think it lets them know, understand the game better. And you know, Jacob played sweeper in our kill position. He played sweeper in a man marking system. He played a little bit of center back in a flat back system. He played the number 6. He played the number 10. And he played the number 8 and the number 9. So if you know what those numbers mean, you know that he played a lot of different positions. The only position he didn't play this year was an outside back or outside mid, and I'm sure he could have. But did a great job. Again, one of the guys that really led our team in scoring. Jacob had 13 goals and 12 assists for 25 points. Keen Austin with 25 points, tied for second scoring behind Gabe with 32. Just a great kid, great leader. Gonna miss him tremendously, as will the program. Jacob Bobby.